That's the way addicts are. It's because they always default to that voice that thinks alcohol is the answer to everything. We can do hard things sober, right?
Absolutely. Neuroplasticity is real, right? It really
For
is.
sure.
There's no willpower. Like, it's not like when I go out, I'm like, I have to have willpower not to drink anymore. Like, that's just not even, I don't even look at it as like an option. Like, there's no willpower needed because I'm not struggling.
The first drink you have a decision over, and then anything after that, you're powerless over. Like,
We process alcohol differently. It's not the same as you. It's way more than that. And we do have that voice that just says, drink, 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 drink. And if you don't get it, put your cell phone across the room and try not to touch it.
yeah,
And
that's a
see how
love.
long you go. There is really no willpower, but what there is, discipline is a better word, to do the work. You need discipline to do the work, to get over that hump.
You know, I think it's hard because people glamorize it and make it look so fun. But you and I know the internal turmoil that's going on, no matter how good the outside looks. Once I stopped drinking, it was so disconnected from who I was that that desire was lifted off of me.
Okay, welcome into Cappy Hour with my guest, Nisha. Hey, Nisha.
Hello, how are you?
Excellent, thanks. So she and I have never actually spoken before now, and just only know each other very roughly through Instagram. And so I didn't even explain to her. I said, everything's good for the podcast. So let's just start recording. So my format, I don't really get into the people's backstories like a lot of podcasts. I love to just get right into recovery talk and ADD talk and leveling up talk and all that, and kind of work the backstory into it. And I also realized I've had a lot of female guests lately. At first, I only had males. Lately, I've only had females. But I want to actually start right off the bat with some questions that I think will really appeal to men. So for those listening, get ready. But I do want you to give a quick just background, Nisha, on what you do,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for having me, Brian. It's been good just setting up with you and getting to know you so quickly. Yeah, so I'm Nisha Patel out of Atlanta, Georgia. Professionally, I'm a therapist and a sobriety coach. I've been sober personally over 17 and a half years now. And really all of my work, I do public speaking as well, is just aligned in my purpose of helping others and really being a service to the community. I feel like I was given the gift of sobriety and learned how to maintain long-term sobriety, actually. And so it's my way of giving back. And so, doing podcasts like these really are just fulfilling for me, and hoping that whoever listens gets what they need out of it.
Awesome. And I know you've done several others, including the one I've listened to you did with Soba Megan in December. So I know from that you got sober at 24 and you're going to be hitting 18 years this year, eh?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
That is amazing. Absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you.
And I'll definitely have some questions about getting sober so early. Hopefully we'll get to it because we've got a lot to cover. I wanted to start with what I just teased about things that apply to men. Things like I think males have a harder time getting to affirmations and manifestations and all that. I am in a training certification program for coaching, sobriety coaching, success coaching. This woman, Carolina, is great. Her program's Euphoric AF. And so she's been talking and includes NLP, which I want to talk to you about. I know you do something similar with DBT. Recent trainings have come up about affirmations and mindfulness. And now that we're doing NLP, she's been playing a lot of Tony Robbins, who I frankly thought was full of BS until I attended his AI boot camp recently. And they had a ton of speakers. He was by far the best. I get it. He's just he's so passionate. He comes off as a phony almost, but he definitely believes everything he's saying, and it's definitely worked for him. And I know DBT, which you can talk about, but includes a mindfulness component.
Does.
I think I'm guessing men are more reluctant than women to do these things. I know I am. I don't know if it's a male-female thing. I'm just kind of a guess that even, certainly yoga, there's no question, right? More women are into yoga. So do you believe in all that stuff? Affirmations, meditation, I'm sure. Maybe affirmations. That's the one that really seems phony to me, but I did try. I downloaded a Huberman podcast. Oh no, that was actually on meditation, but another one where you just closed your eyes and listen to affirmations. It seems so hokey, but
did it work? I'm gonna ask first.
I don't know. I only did it once. It felt good. It felt like it might have if I kept it up, for sure.
Yeah. So, affirmations and things of that nature, I think that people, go, okay, well, if I listen to them when I'm sleeping, if I listen to them 24/7, if I drown myself in the noise, then I will start believing it. For me, I don't think that's true. I think you have to connect the emotion with the affirmation. Really. So when you are saying these affirmations or whatever they are, what emotion do you want to feel? What are you trying to elicit out of it? And then almost bringing up a memory or a time where that emotion is present, and then bringing up the affirmations with that. That, I think, is when it imprints in the brain and the body and just how you move forward in life. That I think the words, if you just put these words on paper and you're like writing them down or just saying them and hoping that they'll stick, they could work. Maybe. I'm not going to say no totally, but I think that the likelihood is less likely. And I think with women, maybe more so because we are more in tune with our emotions. We're connected to our intuition, and that way just the feminine energy, whereas the masculine, right, is more logical brain. And a lot of these meditative practices and affirmations and things like that to sink in, you really have to be in that window of tolerance within yourself. So your prefrontal almost needs to be quieted down so that you can get to that emotional part of your system to really take them in and embody them.
Yeah. All right. I love any mention of the prefrontal. I love talking about the PFC, the prefrontal cortex. Yeah, that is interesting. An example might be I really struggle with ADD, and so I don't really consider myself a productive person. So if I listen to meditations before bed saying, you are a productive person, you are a productive person, am I going to wake up a productive person? I don't know. I should have tried it more than one night. Frankly, I didn't even think about it again. I only thought about it that day because it came up on Carolina's call. I think it was actually a book of affirmations but maybe in the moment when I'm down on myself for not being productive, if I then broke into that with, you are a productive person. I mean, that's kind of what you just said, right? And
yeah. So I'd say if you're in a moment of not being productive, I would suggest, well, no, let's write down how you can be productive. Like, what is that to even have a list somewhere in your notes in your phone or whatever. Actionable items that actually are contradictory to that core belief. And then you will say, I am productive. And you will do something productive, right? Thought, action.
That's a good one. And I wonder if that is even yet another male-female thing. I wonder the percentage of like journaling, which maybe off the top of my head, you could tie to a diary, which definitely was a female thing, right? No boys had a diary. Imagine if you ever were caught with one. Like it even just got me thinking, if yoga traditionally is just all females, what if that was known as a male thing? If you knew it was going to be all guys in the class, would more guys go? Not that they don't go, they should even want to go, single ones at least, to maybe even meet somebody, but it's interesting. So back to my thought of, I'm very reluctant to write anything. My accountability partner for ADD, she's like, you've got to write down your wins. And I even went through a coaching program that was every week. The call was about what were your wins this week? And now that ended months ago. And I've yet to write down, track any wins, right? Yeah, I'm still not buying in. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, if we could just do a whole session here, Brian. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, part of me wants to be like, yeah, but what is it about writing down your wins and acknowledging actually the things you've done well? Because I'm sure there have been times where we haven't done well and you acknowledge those and we replay those in our brain all of the time, how we could have done it better, what we could have done, right? What's so uncomfortable about acknowledging what you've done well?
Yeah, it's not uncomfortable. So that's a good point. Is that why, say, men don't do it? It's uncomfortable. For me, it's actually taking the time. I am horrible. What is it? If you fail to plan to fail. With ADD, I am always, I laugh because of the irony. I'm so focused on trying to be productive that I don't let myself do anything that I think is going to slow that down, even though I'm a procrastination maniac. A great analogy my other ADD partner, accountability partner, said was, by not taking the time to plan and to calendar and write your goals, it's like walking because you don't want to stop for gas. How good is that?
Yeah.
She said that 3-4 months ago. I still don't stop for gas, and I still go into everyday walking. I wish I could turn my camera, but it's stationary and it'll take me 5 minutes to get it back. I just got a 60 by 40 whiteboard. So what is that? That's like 5 feet by 3 feet approximately. And I've had it now for weeks, and I've got almost nothing up there.
That's overwhelming. To have a blank board that you're supposed to write things on. Like, if you think about that in itself is overwhelming for somebody who's hyper productive and has so much in here to go, okay, now you're going to put it on this thing.
That's interesting because the biggest enemy of ADD is overwhelm. I don't think you're wrong, but I don't even think that's it for me. I won't take time to do it because I'm still getting up later than I wanted to. My morning exercise is taking longer than I wanted to. My eating breakfast is taking longer than I wanted. So once it hits 10, 10:30, 11, 12, I'm like, I have got to get on my computer. I have got to. And everything else goes out the window. And then the same thing at night. I vowed to do a night routine of writing my wins, planning my next day. It's like, nope, because I always end up eating dinner later than I planned. And I then just have to get to bed so I can get up early, and the cycle starts all over again. It's vicious. It's crazy. Yeah, it's funny. We could make this a session. Carolina includes, she has an assistant coach, and she said, everyone, you get a free session with Amy. And at first I thought, well, I'm not going to take it because I don't need coaching. I'm the coach. Although I know coaches need coaches. But I said, I don't want to just take an hour of her time. We're even supposed to use each other in this program. So it's like, there's no way I'm going to be hiring her. But I said, I should do a podcast with her and make that the session. And it would probably turn out just like this. So this is a good demonstration of what you probably do for you.
It is, and I think it's like those executive function things, which you've heard before, and getting time cubes. And like, at first it's annoying. It's a nuance. Like, I have to have a time cube to beat me when to go to the next thing and when to go to the next thing. Yeah, until you build that muscle of discipline, and just like ADHD, depression, addiction, because we hear a lot of times in the rooms, people will say, oh, well, that's just how addicts are. And I'm like, no. Like, that's not just how they are. That's not how you are, right? There's active choice. We can do things differently. These issues cause symptoms, and then there's also ways to adjust accordingly and work with them. Because I do think the ADD, ADHD thing is a superpower. Like, I fully believe that you just have to learn how to manage it.
Totally. I'm in the camp of the superpower, and it's even going to become one for me. I'm trying to overcome this the same way I did with sobriety, by becoming an expert, learning the neuroscience, and I'm doing that with ADD as well. I hired a great coach. I actually did a podcast with him on ADD, particularly in relation to alcoholics as well. There's so many similarities. I mean, he defines it rightly so as executive dysfunction and dopamine dysregulation. And that's the same thing. That's what alcoholism is, and that's what ADD really is. And I know it's ADHD, but I just lazily call it ADD, but they're very similar. Now, one thing that he says that bothers me is that, and I didn't hear him say this till after we did the podcast. He said, you can't rewire your brain. He completely just accepts that he's never going to have any willpower. And the good news by thinking that way is he structures his whole thing is about systems. So he's really good with calendaring and using Opal, which is an app blocker, and doing all kinds of time cues and all that. But I do think for sure in sobriety, you can rewire your brain. I now think it's actually easier to overcome alcoholism than ADHD, because if you just don't drink and do hard things sober, which can just be living the day out, your brain will rewire. I say it, you mentioned, that's the way addicts are. It's because they always default to that voice that thinks alcohol is the answer to everything. But if you can abstain, you will show them, I like to call it a new voice in town.
Yes.
That we can do hard things sober, right?
Absolutely. Neuroplasticity is real, right? It really
For
is.
sure.
I do think that willpower, I say discipline. I really do think that's one thing that helps overcome the days when it's hard or when you can't or the struggle. Because like you said, once you remove the alcohol, right, and you replace it with something healthy, usually it is replaced with something. It's not totally gone. There's no willpower. It's not like when I go out, I'm like, I have to have willpower not to drink anymore. Like that's just not even, I don't even look at it as like an option. Like there's no willpower needed because I'm not struggling.
Yeah, I love that. I laughed because my mother, I told her I'm trying to give up coffee, which is failing miserably. And it's so similar to the sobriety battle. Amazing. I could talk about that forever, but I now find myself bolting off to the mobile station down the street that has this new great coffee machine. I never bought coffee at a gas station before, but they put in this great new machine for my hometown coffee place. But the other day we had a training call actually with Carolina, and I was a little sleepy, and I bolted down there to get some coffee. But anyway, I laughed because when I told my mother I wanted to give up coffee, she said, Brian, you're using enough willpower already not to drink. And I laughed because, I'm coming up on 2 years now. I was probably a year or so at the time. And I laughed. I said, oh, that's cute. You think I'm using willpower not to drink. I said, that went out the door a long time ago. I said, I am so hooked on having a clear mind. I cringe when I see people drinking now. I do not need willpower not to drink. I can be surrounded by it. Although I did recently learn, you never know. That voice can attack at any time. And it did pop up. It did pop up on a recent vacation, which I do want to talk to you.
Yes.
Talk to you about, and we could segue there in a minute, but I think you just made an important distinction. Willpower and discipline, because there really is no willpower in early sobriety. People hate when they at the AA, like you need to surrender. You are, you're helpless. And someone once said, no, you have control over the first drink.
Yep.
Every drink after, that's when you're helpless. Is helpless the word I'm looking for?
After the first, you're powerless. It's powerless.
Powerless.
It's powerless.
Jesus.
Like the first drink you have a decision over,
right.
And then anything after that, you're powerless over.
Exactly. But you could question if you even have power over that first drink when you're in the throes of it, when you're under that brainwashing, or even in early sobriety, when your mind literally every second is going drink, 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 drink. And I love that a reminder about the cell phone thing, that for those who don't get it and judge alcoholics and just think we lack willpower, which is such a joke, I tell them, we process alcohol differently. It's not the same as you. It's way more than that. And we do have that voice that just says drink, 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 drink. And if you don't get it, put your cell phone across the room and try not to touch it.
Yeah, that's
see how long you go. Yeah. And I guess it wasn't you that posted that, but it was just the other day. And I said, I love this. I say it all the time. So there is really no willpower, but what there is, I say, is willpower, but really discipline's a better word to do Discipline is a better word to do the work. You need discipline to do the work, to get over that hump, to go sober a week and then 2 weeks. And then willpower can play more of a role as you want this, as you gain self-love and the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think early on I was taught the amount of time I spent planning, recovering, all of those things double that amount of time for your recovery, especially in the first few years. That's where you build that strong foundation so that then you do have freedom to go on vacation, enjoy things with your family, your children, whomever. But the first few years in building that strong foundation is so important. It's vital.
Absolutely. And to relate it to ADD, as Ali says, again, he's the ADD coach, that you have no willpower. But what I should have is the discipline to put the systems in place.
That is it. The scaffolding of my life, it is, and I'm not poster child for this at all, but I do struggle with it. it is planned. Things are routine. Right? I love routine. And it's not because I don't like to have a fun life and do adventurous things, but the routine allows me to get the things I need done. So then I can go do 50 million things that I want to do that are fun and that my brain's telling me to do and open all these different projects. And I get to do them guilt-free, because I think a lot of that is when we are doing our different creative projects and things, but we know we have this laundry list to do that we put off, that we procrastinated, then we don't even enjoy it. So yeah, I live by structure. It's what allows me to do all that I do, for sure.
And what don't you enjoy?
Oh, like I don't enjoy like house things. Like, oh, well, things like, let's say if I put off doing some house chores or something, right? And then I'm going to go for a hike, or I want to go meet a friend because we're going to work on a creative project. Well, in the back of my head, it's, oh, I should have done this thing. Oh, I have to come home to this thing. Oh no. Right. Whereas if I just spent 5 minutes getting that thing done, then guess what? I can go, do whatever I want freely the rest of the day.
I got it. I'm so glad I asked, because you reminded me. It's my life, basically. I don't enjoy anything outside of the house, because I always know there's stuff I need to do back home. Or even in the house, I know, and a big one, and my coach, my former coach, Hope, shout out to her, I would tell her about my playlists. My friend Laura as well, who happens to be a therapist, and I've been hearing about these playlists for years. Make the playlists. I've done some now. I've gotten a little better with it, but for the most part, no, I won't make the playlist until I'm productive on my computer. Which my friend Matt always said, God, you and that computer. I mean, same thing. Like, I think that is the key to my production and to my life and all that. And so it weighs on my mind. You know what weighs on my mind now? Every single day is I gave up trying to read real books, so I switched to audiobooks. But the problem with those is, actually, even real books I had a problem with. I would take screenshots. Now with audiobooks, same thing. If I'm out running and there's something, I take notes on everything. I have 300 pages of notes in a Google Draft. So I take screenshots of the book to remind me what time I need to go back to find the quote I want. I have hundreds of those screenshots, Nisha, hundreds that I need to go back.
What are you going to do with all this?
Oh, great question. I'm going to add to my 300 pages of notes, and yeah, it's crazy.
That's okay. I'm a screenshotter. I get it. I was the same way. When I'd read, I'd get so worried I was going to forget it, because I did. I used to like read things and I could be like, oh, the book. And I will say The Spirituality of Imperfection was a life game changer for me. Now you're going to say, Nisha, why? What was it about? I don't know. I don't remember. But a really good friend of mine pointed this out, and I was like, I think there's something wrong with me. And he said, no, there's not. He was like, what happens is you read these books and you actually take the lessons from it and live it out. Like, you will change a life or change your perception. So you might not remember the quote that I was so like worried and frantic about trying to remember, but taking the lesson and applying it is so much harder. And I think so when we allow ourselves to just hear and absorb it and not worry about that, it's like, then it almost becomes easier that you're embodying it and less guilty for not remembering that one amazing quote, Yeah.
And funny, just a podcast being released just today with my friend Jenny. We talked about quotes. We both love music and quotes.
I love quotes.
And lyrics now, which I never used to remember lyrics or even notice them. And I realized, I told you before we hit record, I say it like that because I don't like to miss anything, including this. What I said to you was, I now blame everything or relate everything to ADD, just like I used to relate everything to sobriety. Like I used to say, oh, that's why I was never productive, because I was drinking and I was always mentally hungover. But now I realize as much it was the ADD holding me back, which ADD is very misunderstood. We could do hours just on that. People think you just focus, but it's much more. Your brain literally will not allow you to do real work, basically, is one word. It's I've even called it a lack of work ethic. That talk about rewiring your brain, right? And my mother even brought that up. She said, yeah, you basically developed a neural pathway of not doing real work, and then you've ingrained it. So yeah, you're not used to getting up and getting to work. You're used to procrastinating for hours. But where I'm going with that is, Jenny and I talked about quotes, and I said, I used to find quotes so fleeting, almost meaningless, like people with a calendar of quotes on their desk. But I said in sobriety, or recovery is a better word, I not only love and appreciate quotes, I actually put them right into place. I repeat them frequently, and I actually put them into place. And like one was just embrace the tension. That one almost got me sober. And I tell people that all the time, right? Oh, here's a great one. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
I love that.
So
Yes.
good. Yeah. So
Yes.
good. And that's what, this training is all about, that Carolina does, is about changing the subconscious. So if you can get people, when they get a craving, to get excited, like, oh, this is great. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to overcome this, and I'm going to be so much stronger tomorrow. But that's so hard to do in early sobriety.
It is. Early sobriety is so ugly. Like, I think it's hard because people glamorize it and make it look so fun. But you and I know the internal turmoil that's going on, no matter how good the outside looks. Those first few months are hard unless you have a support system, unless you have people holding you, picking you up while you're just like barely crawling,
Yeah. And having accountability is huge too. I invented something called play the share forward, which may sound like something you've heard. Play the tape forward, which is where you're supposed to, think about that the next day and the hangovers and destroying your life. And that's supposed to stop you from drinking in the moment. But that never worked for me, because by the time I got to that point, the voice had already made the decision for me. But I know some people have success with that. But what I did was I would think about how I was going to embrace the tension in the moment, get through it, and then share the F. See, that's a good use for swearing. Share the F out of it that night or the next day. And that really worked for me. I'd even pre-announce it. I'd say, it'd be Friday night. It'd be a Friday. And I'd say, oh, we're going to get slammed at my pizza shop tonight. I owned a pizza shop for 5 years during COVID, random. And I said, we're going to get slammed tonight. There's a liquor store 50 yards away. So no matter how slammed we were, I could always run and get it. That was the worst thing, because if I didn't bring any with me and we were slammed, I'd be out of luck. But it wouldn't matter how slammed we were. I could run over and buy a handle. So I said, I'm not going to do that tonight, and I'm going to tell you about it later. And that would really power me through. So
that's beautiful. I love that. I'm going to start that one.
I just want to give an example of a quote that really I am put into practice. And a great one that I'm using now, and Carla, my ADD buddy, told me to put up, and I still haven't, is the old done is better than perfect, which I really struggle with.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you want it to be just right. I said you want it to be just right.
It's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah. It's a huge struggle. Everything I do, the perfectionism is rampant. But I guess just discipline versus willpower. I wanted to make that point. So you need discipline to do the work. Willpower is not going to help you not drink. But if you discipline is just show up to the meetings, ideally even share on the meetings, and do other kinds of work, including, for me, cold shower immersion is my number one sobriety trick. We can talk about that. I am single. I live alone. I'm still semi-hermited. So I need to seek discomfort. As one of my friends says, she calls herself a discomfort junkie. I mean, that is a key. So I need, and I say in early sobriety, you need to do, hard things from home, right? And to me, the three things for me, guaranteed my mood and sobriety were cold shower finishes, sharing, and exercise. And every day, if I was in a bad mood and wasn't going well, or I was struggling with the voice, I knew I didn't do one, two, or all three of those things.
Right.
So I'll digress from that.
And I think that's it. I will say that you made a really important part. I think early in sobriety, it's important that you find your foundational things that you need to do, 3 to 5 things daily to keep you in the middle, right? And so for me, I remember early on, I'm thinking back and I was like, gratitude list, always. I had 1 or 2 friends that we would either email or text them back and forth, and there was no obligation to reply, but you knew that it was coming and one was going to be received for sure, I think. Right, giving back, helping other people, that was one that I was always told to do. And then right? Being of service. And then for me, exercise, that's another one of mine. That's a big one. Like for mind, body, spirit, all of it. I've always enjoyed a lot of movement. I've always needed it for my nervous system. And so that really was continuing something I did, before recovery, but even after, and that I definitely reaped the benefits of.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And Carolina was just saying how a big part of her coaching is talking about baby steps. You probably do the same, right? Like that was another key to me in recovery, just baby steps. For those who reluctant to exercise, just baby steps. Ali, the ADD coach, he really helped me with this. What he said, he had a pull-up bar, and he said, if I think I have to do 10 pull-ups, I'll do none. But if I think I'm going to do one, I'll do 10.
Yeah.
And that inspired me to not only get a pull-up bar, which I wish I could move my camera, because it's one of those that you don't even have to hang it. It's one of those that just compresses against the wall.
Yeah.
And so it's so easy. Anyone can mount it. And I do it every single day. All right, I'm just going to do one. And I do 10, which now I'm up to 14. And then I usually keep it going. It's the same thing with push-ups and everything else. So yeah, baby steps is key. As well as podcast I just had last week with my friend Koki, we talked about the irony that when you don't feel motivated, the way to get motivated is to move. So when you don't feel like moving, you have to move, and then you will get motivated.
And I think it goes back to the discipline of just doing it, because not doing it because you feel a certain way, doing it because that's just what you do, right? Sometimes the feelings come after. You just have to act yourself to where you want to be or what you want to do, and not wait for that bout of inspiration or that burst of energy. Like some days you're not going to have it, but you're going to do it anyways. So yeah, you're not going to want to go to the meeting because it's raining or it's cold or whatever, but you're committed to your sobriety, so you go anyways.
Yes. I think you mentioned that on the podcast with Soba Sister Megan, right?
Mm.
How was it like your sponsor talked about you do anything to drink, including stay up all night and all that stuff, yet we'll so easily sacrifice doing the work if it involves any kind of minor inconvenience, right?
Dan, it's funny because it was a cold, rainy day when I was like, well, I don't think I want to meet today because it's kind of cold. And she was like, what? And it was a beautiful lesson. I mean, I picked a really old timer that was really hard on me, and I'm glad I did. Like I wanted to. It was one of those things that I know I was only 24, but I knew that I was not meant to lead the life I was living. And in order for me to live out the life I was meant to, that I was going to have to do this. And I wanted to make sure and do everything in my possible power actually to make sure that I was going to maintain sobriety. So I picked like the oldest lady that had the most time, that was like the hardest person to take you through everything. And I was like, bring it, let's do this. I want to learn from you. I want to study you so that I can do what you've done.
Good for you. I love it. I love it. That's so great. Sobriety takes time. I love Laura McCowan defined early sobriety as is 1 to 2 years, which went in line with what I always said. Some think early sobriety is like 3 to 6 months. It's like, no, not at all. And I think you can accelerate. So you have to stay sober, stay patient, but you can accelerate your recovery by the more work you do. The more you share, the more cold shower finishes you do, you can accelerate. And to bring it home with the headgear. So I wore my headgear way more than I needed to because I just wanted to be done with it. Whereas my cousin Mary Beth never wore headgear. So she had braces for 7 years because basically she didn't wear headgear. So, and this all circles back to what you said. You sought out the harder sponsor. And that even goes in line with the embrace the tension, like invite it, but invite to discomfort. Become a discomfort junkie. Now when I know I go to a hard social event, I'm going to be so much stronger the next day. The only key, I love to say, is you got to go outside your comfort zone, but stay inside your strength zone.
Yeah.
And that's so, so important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the key to life is going outside your comfort zone. But if you go outside your strength zone, that can lead to trouble and to relapse.
Yeah. I think, you're talking about these external things that help us propel it, move it along quicker, or help your recovery and your healing get stronger, faster, right? Also, rigorous honesty. Like they talk about that a lot. And I think that is very, very important. Finding people or a person that you can be fully honest with. Because a lot of times people drink over, the guilt, the shame, the secrets, the built up resentments that they don't want to look at or they don't want to face. And I think it takes a few months before somebody's willing to get rigorously honest about things. So even, like you said, early sobriety is not 3 to 6 months. No. Because when I have therapy clients, sometimes it takes them 3 months to really show up on my couch. It takes a hard relapse or a hard episode. And then I'm like, welcome to therapy, because they're perfect when they come in and they don't really have that big of problems. They just need help with very surface level things. But then when they really hit that bump and they come in and you just see it and they're like, okay, here it is. I'm like, welcome. Now we begin.
Yeah. It's two things remind me, the keyword blocking yourself with alcohol. And yeah, honesty is so key. And the power of having an accountability partner, a sponsor is one thing, certainly a coach, a sponsor is free and they're great and they function as a coach, but there's nothing like a paid coach to really keep you accountable and that has some expertise, and also accountability partners. And in mine, she's my ADD one. I still do technically have sobriety accountability partners, but I don't talk to them as much. Now it's ADD ones. And I tell one of them, Carla, we're like platonic soulmates. And, I tell her everything. Someday I'll tell the world some of the stuff I'm telling her, but yeah.
And I think that's it. It's because not everybody does, not everybody goes to meetings. Not everybody does 12-step. Not everybody does whatever program, right? But I think you said that right, of like having, if you don't have a mentor, even let's call it that, outside that's not professional, having a sobriety coach or having a recovery coach or something, I think is very helpful, especially early on when we were combing through such heavy, deep stuff. Like stopping drinking is only the first step. And then comes the messy part. Because I think you use for a word you just used, but really we numb with alcohol. You numb the good and the bad. And so when you take your numbing agent away, oh my gosh, you are feeling so much more. And all of that coming at you can feel like a sensory overload, going back to ADHD. Like it's sensory overload and you need help navigating that. Navigating that alone is so difficult. And I feel it makes it so much more harder to maintain that sobriety that you want so badly.
Yeah. I love the analogy that it's like you're living without skin in early sobriety. I mean,
you really are. Everything's sensitive. Everything's prickly. Like even it can be simple things. Like we're talking about doing hard things, but I've seen it where I have clients where it's just hard to even go to the grocery store, or it's hard to go watch their kids' baseball game, right? Or go hang out with friends, because everything I think in nowadays, well, less so now given the recent studies we've all seen around alcohol, but it's still a very alcohol-centered culture. And if you don't, it's like, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong, right? And I think that anxiety of somebody even going, what am I going to say when I go out in public? What am I going to say to my friends? I always say rehearse before you go out. Get confident with your one-liners, so then it's no big deal. You're going to socialize, you're going to have fun. We're not going to partake in the drinking part. And I will say my clients have the most fun because they are already prepared. Their nerves are calm because they know what they're going to say. They have their drink order ready to go and they enjoy themselves, because those are the trip ups where people want to go home and think sobriety is miserable and boring and mundane,
Yeah. Preparation is key. Absolutely. I went to my college reunion a few years ago and it was at a brewery, which I anticipated wasn't going to have any NA beer options, which I don't even know. I never even asked. I should have called, but I just brought my own kombucha. It was like the old days. I was filling Gatorade, 20-ounce Gatorade bottles with kombucha and smuggling it in. Although I didn't really smuggle it. I would have no issue if someone, and nobody cares anyway. Like a worker's going to say, what are you drinking? They don't care. You can even bring your own, I haven't actually done this, but I know you can bring your own NA beers to a bar, no, especially if they don't offer it. Nobody's going to stop you from that. But I'm huge on having backup options, not going cold turkey when you have no other options and it's either pure drink nothing, sobriety, drink nothing, or give in and drink. You need something in between. I even use Klonopin for that, which I didn't even intend to get into, but that's a great topic I want to ask you about. But I do want to circle back on a few more things. One, I just have to say, we are surrounded, alcohol is a part of everything. Well, as I've gone to give up coffee, I've learned that's a huge part of our culture as well. And for the record, I don't have to give it up, but I do think it screws, especially the caffeinated kind, which I try to only drink half calf, but I think it makes my ADD worse. Some say it helps them focus, but it just speeds up my mind even more. So I totally don't think it does. But at one point I'd gone 3 days. Does this sound familiar? I'd gone 3 days and went to breakfast with my mother. And I was like, what am I going to drink at breakfast? The whole reason I love going out to breakfast, but it's all for the refills, and not because they're free refills, though I am thrifty. It's just fun having, getting topped off. Although I hate when they top you off too soon. And I got to, every time you get topped off, you have to redo your cream and sugar mix. I only use a little sugar, no judgers, but I got to redo it. A woman topped me off so soon the other day, and I had the perfect mix. That upset me. But anyway, so I drank decaf. I had no idea, nor did my friend Jen when I told her this the other day. Decaf tastes bland. Some of the flavor gets removed. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. I drink black coffee. So.
Oh, good for you. I drink black iced coffee, which I mainly drink, but now I'm back on a hot coffee kick. It's odd, but I totally hate the taste of black coffee. Hot black coffee, but I love it cold. Strange.
So I like the taste of it. I like the bitter. Like I like dark chocolates. I like black coffee. So, but I'll drink either caffeinated or decaf. It really doesn't. I could drink it and go straight to bed. Caffeine doesn't really affect me.
I'm pretty much with you. Other than, again, I think it speeds up my mind. But yeah, it doesn't keep me from sleeping really. But that's funny you say that. Howard Stern always gets fired up about people who adulterate their coffee. He goes, if you have to, that means you don't like coffee. And it is kind of true. My friend Carrie, I released a podcast with her a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I now think I drink coffee is just a delivery mechanism for my caramel creamer.
Oh my gosh.
That was hysterical. Yeah, so good. So good. Mm-hmm. But yes, I found at this mobile station down the street, because it has this new machine from Lost Shoe, which is a brewery and a coffee house, which is phenomenal. There's a whole topic right there. But in my hometown of Marlborough, Mass, it's great. You can go there with drinkers, but then you can get a coffee. They have lemonade coffee. How does that sound?
Gross.
Awful? It's better than it sounds. Surprisingly,
I don't like flavors of my coffee.
Good.
I know, but like even like, I know it's boring.
No, I'm with you. I get sucked in. Like if I go to I actually have my dermatologist has a Keurig, and which I was so impressed with until I got the bill. It's a new dermatologist. Then I understood. But I always get sucked into like the blueberry K-cup. And I think that sounds so good. And I take one sip and I go, no, no good.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I don't do flavored coffee. You got to think of the lemonade coffee as just kind of a different drink altogether. It's.
I think so. Yeah. Maybe if it wasn't called coffee, yeah.
But I've only had it once. I need to go back and try it again before I tout it too much. But anyway, to circle on one thing, the blocking was the key word I gave you, which you might have forgotten. And you touched on it. And like with your clients, like Carolina says to people in our certification program, even if you don't plan to be an alcohol-free coach, a sobriety coach, if your clients have a habit of drinking, it's going to be blocking them. So you're going to need the expertise anyway. And a great point is I don't know this statistically, and I haven't asked AI, but we believe the majority of successful entrepreneurs are either sober or they're definitely not heavy drinkers.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because it doesn't allow them to lead the lifestyle that they want or be as productive as they want or get the things done. I think a lot of people realize the different things that will get in their way, right? Different habits, and they start eliminating them.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of getting in the way, I never would have realized the ADD was what has really been holding me back if I hadn't gotten sober. So you touched on, you got to get sober first, and then the real work begins. And I want to say the fun begins, and the fun in life definitely.
It is not. I don't want to make it sound awful, like, oh my gosh, it's dready. If there's fun to it, there is so much fun. And both. I just think there's so much glamorizing of it. And I hate for people to think that they should look so put together so early on, like when it is some of the hardest moments, because it's not like, some people like, so with Sister, she does a great job. She shared from like day one, like, it's beautiful. But some of us, and me, I will say me, like, you won't find my day one because Instagram wasn't even there. So I don't have it. But then you see this, person that has sobriety, and you're like, well, is that what it should look like? Well, no, it took a lot of work to get here.
Yeah. Those day one shares are so brave. Absolutely.
They're very powerful.
They are.
Absolutely.
I made up a quote that says, for every day one you share, it's either going to be your last or get you one closer to your last.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
I love that.
Because, people that would do it even on sobriety calls and within community, so brave. Never mind on social media. That's even a whole nother level. But just sharing in the community, because most, and I was one of them, didn't want to share it because then I would be afraid I'd have to share the relapse. But no, that's better.
Yeah.
Because talking about it is so key. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My buddy Tom, I was going to mention this when I said, you got to go outside your comfort zone, but stay inside your strength zone. So he was at 7 months. He went on a boys golf weekend outside his comfort zone, but it turned out to be also outside his strength zone. He made it through day one, but he drank on day 2. And he was very public with his sobriety. And then he came right out. He fessed up, got back on the horse, and now he's well over a year of sobriety.
That's good for him. I mean, I commend him. That takes a lot of vulnerability and just bravery to share, the both sides of the story.
Big time. And I want to get to my Disney vacation where I got caught potentially outside my strength zone. But I don't want to forget, you mentioned radical honesty, and that's such a key part of recovery. And, we say that sobriety communities, recovery communities are practice for real life. In fact, I'm going to launch my community soon as I overcome my ADD, and it's going to be called LEPT, Learn, Experiment, Perform, Thrive, which I got off of a meme. But that's what you do. Most people, they call themselves lurkers, which I hate the term. They're learners, but I didn't even share for 3 months, my first sobriety community. I was learning.
Yeah.
And then I started to share, which was experimenting, kind of just with what I'd say and preparing and all that. And then perform. I actually did become performative, including singing and dancing within the community, and then eventually thriving. But what I want to get to is how that is practice for real life. So it's good practice to be radically honest there with a bunch of strangers.
Oh, yeah.
Although it does become, if you notice, at least I noticed, I was so carefree in my shares originally. I didn't know any of them. Then you get to know the people in your community, and you actually start to fear judgment more as you get to know them, and you become less honest. But that's crazy. It's like lying to your doctor, which I know everybody does. But who cares if your doctor judges you for drinking, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be radically honest with everybody, but do it. And it's funny, I haven't shared in 3 months. I'm still in a community, but I've been so focused on my ADD community.
Yeah.
But I'm going to share soon on my sobriety community. I often shock people anyway with what I say, but I'm really going to shock them with my radical honesty, I think.
And I think it's important. And also when you have the opportunity to share, I love that how you said it prepares you for the real world or real life, right? And like being put on the spot. Again, early on, that was one of the things I was taught. If you're asked to share or speak, you never say no because it's service work and we don't turn down service work. And really what that does is it gets you out of yourself. It's practicing not being selfish and ego-centered.
Yeah.
Because when you have to share your story and on the spot someone goes, hey, we need you to share your story. And you have to sit up there and tell your story. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's great to think of just a regular share, 3-minute share as service. I hate people that apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't that uplifting of a share.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, those are the ones that do the most service. Anything you say, somebody is going to get something out of. Yeah.
I agree.
For sure. And it is great about AA, which I have only attended sparingly. but being in person. I know service is a huge component. I have a buddy, Derek, who better be listening. He goes to a hospital, I want to say once a week, and shares with the people that are in treatment, which is great.
Yeah.
I've never done that, and I absolutely
And I think
should.
a lot of recovery communities are around, like that is one of the foundational things of recovery communities, right? However you say it, I think it is all about service work and giving back, right? You know, you give back what you have so you can keep it,
Yeah.
right? That's what we're taught. Like, give it back so you can keep it.
Yeah, it's so good. So I am hoping, and the problem with online communities is they're virtual. So it's hard to really get local meetups going other than in the place maybe it's headquartered or if in major cities. But I would love to get some local components and service stuff going within my community because they kind of leave you on your own in online communities. They totally espouse it, but they leave you on your own. But whereas locally AA, I know it really helps when people do it together. So I would love to do that. As Laura McCowan says, you will forget. That's why you need people like, I have to go to meetings for life. No, you go to them long-term because you enjoy the community, but it also helps to have the reminder, So all this is to say, to let my guests speak, Nisha,
You're so
coming
fun.
up on 18 years. Can you recall moments like that where at least the voice has chirped up and tried to get you to drink?
Yeah. I don't know if the voice of chirped up of like to drink. I feel like it probably have had moments where things felt so uncomfortable that I couldn't handle it, where I was looking for different outlets. I will say I'm one of those not unfortunate, one of the fortunate ones, but with more of a boring story. Once I stopped drinking, it was so disconnected from who I was that that desire was lifted off of me. So I picked up one chip and that was it for me. Now, I will say there's points where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so painful. I wish I had something else to replace it or something else to stop the pain, right? But to drink, no. I will say the closest thing I've had is drinking dreams. I mean, and I don't know if you've had any of those, but where you wake up and it's like on your breath and you're like, wait, did I do it? I don't know. And like, you're like, oh God, do I have to go? Like, what? Do I need to call my recovery community? I've had those, and I call those my God shots. Those are my reminders of like what it would be like if I were to pick up again, or if I had a slip. So for me, that's been it. But I've always knew that it was almost like when I stopped drinking, a weight was lifted off my shoulders of like, finally, I'm lifted off this. I'm not almost trapped by this behavior or this thing that makes me feel awful. And like I said, the first year I was learning myself. Year 2, you're learning yourself. It's like, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? All of that stuff. But really what it did is help me get closer in alignment with myself and with my core self. Early on, it allowed me to even do career switch to become a therapist because I knew that that's what I was meant to do in the world. Every step of the way, I didn't know what was ahead of me, but I got the nudge that you're going in the right direction, if that makes sense. And it all felt so right that alcohol couldn't have enhanced it for me.
Yeah, that is good. That is great, actually. Not just good. That's great. I guess the one area that I still have a hard time when I help others, I call it amateur coaching, is that feeling of being on autopilot, essentially. I do say you got to stay sober, stay patient. You'll become intoxicated on life, as you clearly are, as am I. And you don't have that need, really, although it would have been nice at Disney to have been.
Yeah. But I think if you were surrounded by people in your community or even just new people that were sober or whatever, I bet you would have gotten that spark where maybe that thought wouldn't have come and you would have wanted to go do the boat rides with them, right? It's that alone and loneliness. I think there is a dullness to it. The best way I could explain it is I remember early on, a funny story. One of my good friends was like, hey, let's meet for coffee or something. And I was like, okay, great. And they had not seen me for, I don't know, a year and a half. So they had not seen me sober. And I remember I went to meet them and I was like just bright-eyed and like bubbly. And I didn't know it then. And so the person, it was a fine time. We caught up, all of that stuff. And they're like, okay, well, I got to go now. And then hindsight, 1 year later, he was like, yeah, so I remember seeing you and I was like, what is she on? Like, why is she so happy and what's so good in life? Because it was nothing fabulous was or amazing was happening at that point. I had just started loving the simple things in life. And I think I loved the people around me so much. And he was like, yeah, you were like bubbly and you're just like chatty. But honestly, I left because I was going to go like get high and drink with friends. And I was kind of like, okay. And it was hilarious to hear that back from somebody else to go that knew me, that then someone was like, why are you so even happy? It will happen. It does happen. I don't know why I was, but I think I found a love for life. And with the people around me as well. I think the people around you really do make your environment makes a big difference, right? You can be around they call them dry drunks, who are miserable, who are like, you have to like do all these things and it's everything's gonna be miserable and hard always. Or, hey, we get to do this. This is a gift actually, even though it's difficult at times, really doing things sober, getting sober, being able to stay sober, these are gifts and to not take them for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dry drunks is a term for people that essentially they're sober, but they haven't done the work. They're still wishing they may work or not. They're just still wishing they could be drinking, right? They're envious of drinkers.
They're envious, probably angry, unhappy, uncomfortable. Stop the habit, but they're also not getting the benefits that you can get from getting sober and healing and looking at the uncomfortable or the ugly side of things, right? And working through those. They're still holding to old behaviors, maybe in old thoughts and actions without the substance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally, it's not in the definition, that's why I clarified, but I think those are people that aren't doing much of the work. They might be doing some of it. Mm-hmm. I was in a community a while back, and a friend identified this one woman who's on all the meetings, and she goes, she's a dry drunk. And I was like, what? She's on all the meetings. It's like, so what? And then I realized she actually prided herself on not going to therapy. She's like, I don't do therapy, blah, blah, blah. Like, and so, oh, I get it now. Like, she's a time bomb. Now, she's a big golfer too. That's a hard thing. She does sober almost every day. So that's definitely a huge part of the work. Attending meetings and sharing is a huge part of the work as well. But therapy and or coaching is huge as well. And I would say, even if you can't afford it, because I feel bad being like, get a coach, get a therapist. Leverage your friends for that. Leverage your accountability partners or a sponsor, whatever. But get therapy wherever you can. Talk about. My mother always says she's Irish and doesn't quite get deep conversations. And she said, what are those anyway? I said, well, at minimum, it's talking about your problems. And that is part of doing the work. So
yeah, it is.
You can do that best and safest with a therapist. It's even those, as I mentioned earlier, how we still not even radically honest with our therapist, including about our drinking. I mean, I'd lie to my coach. My therapist, I was honest with. My coach, I wasn't as honest. It's funny. I was more friends. I used to be she was a former sales colleague of mine that converted into coaching. So I did feel more like a friend with her that would almost judge me, even though that just held back my progress. Mm-hmm. That's got to be on my list of work. Oh, I'm always adding to the list of work. I've got a list of 100 things. I'm even going to be putting that out. That's going to be my free, you got to start building an email list when I launch my community. So it's going to say, sign up here to get a list of the work. And radical honesty is definitely a key part of it that will accelerate your recovery for sure. And if I was more honest with Hope, it would have helped.
Yeah.
My buddy even said, my buddy goes, you're not making much progress with her. I go, dude, that's because I keep slipping and not telling her. So A, I'm not making progress because I'm slipping, but B, I'm not even telling her I'm slipping. So she can't even properly help me. So
I think so. And I think that I'm grateful that you shared that, right? I think, yes, you can have a great coach, you can have a great therapist, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to show up week in, week out, honest, and people can only help you the amount you let them.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so if you're not willing to go, hey, I had a slip, or hey, I went back to this other behavior honestly and openly, And then 3 months later, you're like, oh, they suck because I'm still in the same spot. Well, also, you've got to take ownership of where you were willing and not willing to do the work. Because at the end of the day, you have to do the work. No one can do it for you. These are just support systems to help you get further along.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so true. And, one of the reasons people aren't honest is they think they're disappointing you. But a great line is to say, you are not disappointing me at all. You might be disappointing yourself, but you are not disappointing me. In fact, I'm proud of you for telling me you slipped. That's part of the process. That line I invented, you telling me that you're back on a day one is going to get you one closer to your final day one. Hopefully this is it. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many clients, they're like, I was so scared to come in and tell you. And then I just am like, okay, yeah, let's talk about, let's uncover that a little bit. And they're like, oh, I was so scared you're going to be mad at me, or you're not going to want to work with me anymore. Or you're getting tired of me. And I was like, no, I said, I think this is just another step in your journey, and we're going to learn from it so that it doesn't happen again, right? There was a blind spot that you missed. Let's figure out what it is. Then let's move forward. I don't judge you. Slip ups do happen. It is a normal part of getting sober. And so I don't expect anybody to do it perfectly or just one stop, It starts with sober curious, I think, a lot, even though it's like the cliche, sober curious. But a lot of healing and a lot of life changes start there. They really do.
Yeah. Like you said, you had a client that was just sober curious. You said, hey, let's be sober curious together. That's so cute. And I like you said about the blind spot. Yeah, right? Slips, you don't want to glorify them, but they are part of the process. And, the acronym I stole somewhere is that it stands for some learning in progress. And as long as you do learn from it, but typically you learn by talking about it, by being honest, doing a postmortem. Why did this happen? What would you have done differently if you had that situation to do all over again? But that is good. That is good. It's just
what will you do next time?
Yes, exactly. Just like triggers, they say that if you get triggered, that's a sign of something you need to work on, So it's not a bad thing to get triggered.
No. And it doesn't mean that you're not doing well in recovery either. Right? Triggers are going to happen. They're going to come out of nowhere sometimes. It doesn't mean that, oh my God, I need to do something more. No, I was unaware of this thing. Thank goodness I'm aware of it now so I can work around it.
I smirked there. I don't know if you saw it, but I was thinking back. The first community I was in had a sobriety track and a cutback track, which I think is brilliant. And I might do myself, although I don't know if, it's all a matter of focus. But I do think that's brilliant, even though cutback is just torturing yourselves, because one of my favorite quotes is, the only people who can moderate are those who don't need to try to moderate. And just to make sure everyone gets it, you should be able to naturally moderate. If you're, that would mean you're a normal drinker. But those of us that are not, you cannot moderate. No amount of rules you put in place, there's nothing. It might work for a while. It might work indefinitely. But eventually you're going to have one of those nights that could even kill you. So it's playing with fire. But anyway, I wish that was available to me when I was living in Boston. Now I live in the burbs. But it's a good way to start. It's almost like a sober curious track, actually. But anyway, where I'm going with this is they had separate meetings for the sober people and the cutback, but they also had combined meetings. And the sober people some of them, a select few, would always complain that the cutback people were triggering them because they were talking about drinking. And the reason I'm laughing is it's like, listen, that's a trigger. That's on you. If you can't handle that in a world where we're surrounded by alcohol, how are you ever going to go out to dinner or certainly to a bar or to a wedding? Get used to that now. Talk about communities being practiced for real life.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that's when you need to look at yourself and go, okay, well, if I'm being triggered by the word or a story, where in my foundation, where in me, am I not rock solid?
Yeah.
Where do I need to tighten it up?
Absolutely.
Is it spirituality? Is it your relationship with your higher power? Is it getting out of yourself and doing more service? Well, where is it?
And I'm laughing again because I remember this guy, Daniel, if you're listening, watching, he, on occasion, didn't do it often, but he'd be on there drinking an NA beer. He was on the sobriety track, but he thought it was okay to drink an NA beer on camera. That one is still interesting. My buddy Tom every now and then puts, or a lot of people do on Instagram, NA drinks. Doesn't trigger me, certainly not now. Early sobriety, it still didn't trigger, nothing, seeing that would never make me run out. Although I think it did put the idea a little more to the forefront, like, oh, that looks so good. So I didn't really agree with, it's funny, they didn't allow drinking on camera, but because he said it was NA, it was allowed. And again, he didn't do it often, but I did think that was an interesting one. Like, really, dude, there's no need to go out of your way to take a sip on camera.
Yeah, to each their own. I will say I am so glad that there was none of that when I got sober. It was quite easy. Like, there was no NA wine, NA beer, NA liquor, nothing. And honestly, because I think early on in sobriety, you're chasing that taste. And like, oh my God, I would have had so many stomach aches from drinking all that sugary stuff. Like, woof. So I'm glad that that would have been triggering for me, because then I think I would have went and chased the feeling after. The taste would have hit and would not have gotten the feeling, and then I would have gone. I think it actually would have probably prolonged that journey for me. For me, and I love the people in my life, and, always I'm offered like, oh, do you want an NA drink? Or if I go to a nice restaurant, they're like, why don't you pick a fruity something? And I'm like, it's just not of interest to me. Like, I don't want anything that smells like it or tastes like it. And not because I'm scared I'm going to get triggered and drink tomorrow. I just don't have interest in it.
None. Oh, when I said I cringed, that was the first time I cried when I shared about this. I went to the Dylan movie, and there was a scene where they were filming a TV show, and a guy was swilling straight vodka, and I cringed. I cringed at the thought of it. And that was like less than a year into my sobriety, and I'm so happy. I was like, I'm so hooked on a clear mind. Just the idea of that annoying buzz, which I call it, because it's a good buzz for best 20 minutes. And then I also invented buzz limbo. After that, we're in buzz limbo, and we're just chasing a bad buzz until we drink so much we get on autopilot. And that's when bad things really happen. So, by the way, it was, to me, great hearing the cutback people, because they would talk about, I remember a guy talking about all the drunken texts he sent. And it's like, oh, such a good reminder. Thank God those days are over.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember waking up apologizing to this kid I played hockey growing up with, Pat Hogan. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry for saying that last night. He was like, oh, please, I've heard a lot worse than that. Yeah. People don't really care. That's a good reminder. I have a friend now who's trying to get sober, but she sent me a totally inappropriate, flaming, not sexually, just inappropriate text one night. But I knew she had to have slipped. Yeah. And I didn't mind at all. But then she didn't reply to me for weeks because I knew she was embarrassed. It's almost like the disappointment thing. Like, I get it. It's part of the process. But anyway, the NA thing, I want to get into the therapy stuff, but it's interesting about the NA thing and yeah, whether you need to almost apologize if you're showing NA beers on camera like Tom does. He always says, I'm sorry if this is triggering some people, but this works for me. But someone posted NA beers with the song Tipsy. And you know the song, everybody at the bar is getting tipsy, blah, blah. I love that song. Absolutely love it. I actually have a YouTube video about this, all about taking back those terms. Like, I love who said drinking has to be about alcohol? That were clearly as accepted as that. It just I mean, now it's like, there's generic terms like Kleenex is just tissue paper, but Kleenex has become the term for Q-tips is another one that is, the generic term is cotton swabs. So drinking has just become alcohol. But it's like, let's take back drinking. And I'll give this idea, I particularly think of Heineken, because they have only one, they sponsored even the US Open, Heineken Zero, but they only have one ad that they continually run. It's people drinking in the office and the boss comes over, they're drinking after work, but they should run an ad of people having a great time at a bar, play that if they can get the rights, play Tipsy, but they're drinking NA beers. Because that's how you and I would feel in a bar, right? No one would ever know we weren't drinking real alcohol. We'd be having a blast.
Yeah. Plenty of fun. Don't need it.
Yeah. On that same video, I discovered in my research the word intoxicated. You know what that means? And it's pretty easy if you think about it, which I never had, because it has the word toxic in it. Toxic means to poison. So in means into, toxic, poison. into poison. It truly is what that means. And how crazy is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting intoxicated. So, and we talk about it all the time. It is poison. It's low level poison. Try not to say it to normal drinkers and sound like sober snobs. And I want this podcast to be for actually everybody, even normal drinkers, because let's face it, even normal drinkers are trying to cut back.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. My friend Katie won't listen to my podcast. And I said, it's not just talking about sobriety. It's talking, you and I, this first hour had nothing to do with it. It was all about leveling up and all that. So good segue. So let's talk about there's CBT. There's so many acronyms. There's CBT and there's DBT, which is what you do. So what's the quick version of the difference? Maybe say what CBT is first and then what DBT.
So they're both behavioral therapies. They fall under that umbrella. DBT has a mindfulness component to it. And so really what it is it works with people who struggle with personality disorders, higher risk type of clients who maybe self-harm or have tried to commit suicide, addiction, depression, anxiety. So a lot of arrays, but it was created by Marshall and a hand for people with borderline personality disorders to help them stop going in and out of the hospital system, because that's what was happening. They don't get better. It's like a revolving door. And so it's based off, it's 6 months to a year long when you're doing actual DBT. 4 components of it. So there's mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotion regulation, and distress tolerance. So clients usually will go to a skills class to cover these 4 components and then do individual therapy as well. And that's where the day-to-day skills are applied. We do behavior chains to figure out, okay, if you had a trigger or you did drink, like, what were your vulnerabilities and how do we stop that from happening in the future? And so, yeah, and then there's a phone coaching component to it as well. So you've got group class, then you have individual therapy, and then you've got coaching available too.
Oh, right. Yep. And I remember you talking about that on Megan's podcast. So again, Soba Sister podcast. It's right around December. I was going to say around Christmas time, your episode. And I know you talk about that more. So, and CBT, in my recollection, it's talking about kind of limited beliefs. I remember my therapist sending me like a limited beliefs worksheet.
Yeah, cognitive behavior therapy. So it's changing like thought patterns, right? And like black and white thing or cognitive distortions, right? And replacing those. Yeah.
Interesting. So you mentioned personality disorders. What I say, and this really helped me, is that alcoholism, we're low-level schizophrenics, because we do have that neural pathway. That is not us. I use a quote from Edgar Tolle. Some say Tolle. I heard Tolle somewhere. But the guy who wrote The Power Now, but he said, that voice, I don't think he was talking about alcoholism specifically, but he said, that voice is not me. Who am I then? I'm the one who recognizes that. So I tell people that, right? That voice is the best salesman in the world. Are you the best salesman? It does not take no for an answer.
No, I know, right?
For a lifetime. Yeah. I say, this is not a life sentence. Our only life sentence is we're stuck with that voice for the lifetime. But every day that we don't drink, it gets weaker, we get stronger till it shrivels up. It's like a parasite. It needs alcohol to reinvigorate. That is why I think the day count is so important, because once you even take a sip, you reinvigorate that voice. And you might drink normally in the short term, but not for long. That's why I say we can drink normally, but not for long. And that's, I never really heard talked about, but that's why people say, oh, why can I? Because they say, I've learned my lesson. I've said this, and I'll drink more discipline this time. And I did that after 3.5 years. That was the only lie left that could get to me, right? That I could drink normally. And I did for about 2 weeks, although I knew within a day, I think.
You pick up where you left off. That's what they say. And
yes,
you pick up where you left off. And I think that's where the damage can happen, right? Because that's where the accidental deaths or the real like liver damage and things, because you pick up where you left off. So your mind and body tries to drink what you used to drink several years ago. And obviously that tolerance is no longer there.
Yeah, your brain is an amazing thing, because in the throes of alcoholism, it shuts down your dopamine receptors, which is why you need more and more and more to get the same effect. There's even dopamine transponders. I think this is so fascinating. They actually take the dopamine, which sits between your synapses, in the clefts, and it transports them back into the synapses. Like it literally.
Yeah.
So not only you lose receptors, but it actually transports the dopamine out. That's why you have to drink more and more and more, and that's why I believe a lot of people that die of alcohol poisoning are ones that had quit for a long time, and then they went back to it, and then as soon as their brains catch up, they drink to such excess, they get poisoning and it kills them. Your brain, when you go back after a long period of abstinence, the reason you can drink normally for a little bit of time, it does take your brain a bit to catch up. And you do actually get those some dopamine sensors back. Your pleasure baseline returns back to normal because that gets hijacked. You talked about the amygdala getting hijacked. So does your pleasure baseline. Because of all the artificial dopamine spikes. And that's why that's also what the work is replacing the artificial dopamine spikes with natural ones. But you have to like triple up in the early days to match what you could get from alcohol. So it takes a while, but then it'll get hijacked again and your receptors will shut down and then you'll be right back to where you were. Some even say, alcohol is a progressive disorder, disease. And some say it even progresses while you're in sobriety, which I haven't really fully wrapped my head around, but it at minimum, you'll pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
So I think that's so important. Oh, and we're coming up on time. So I guess I wanted to end, I started this thing, I wanted to appeal to the fellas. And, one big appeal to especially the single fellas, although this actually really applies, what am I saying, to the married men just as much. Doing the work makes you such a better person, a deeper person. It's made me such a better listener, so much more judgmental, so much more of having deeper conversations, so much more in tune with my emotions and vulnerability. I just heard a podcast with a guy talking about vulnerability is a superpower as well. And it truly is. Brene Brown says it's our greatest act of courage. So you become such a better person and partner through that process. So it's funny now, I'm on these dating apps and all the women's profiles say you must have emotional maturity. You must be emotionally available. Someone just used secure attachment, which I had never even heard that term before. And that's what I was looking up because I wanted to, but for the sake of time, I won't go into it, but it's basically being able to have a healthy relationship. And then for the married fellas, it's fascinating. All these women, I said I was in a community with 95% women, as they're all getting sober and doing the work and becoming stronger, they're not putting up with their husbands who are just the same deadbeats they married that just want to watch sports and don't do the work and aren't capable of deep conversations. And a lot of them finding they're narcissists. And they're basically saying, hey, I need you to do the work along with me or I'm out. And a lot of them do leave their husbands over it. In which case, a lot of them try to get them to relapse to get them back into that kind of weakened state. So you can become such a better person by doing the work. And it's hard,
Absolutely.
It is hard work in those early days, I just did a video. I was going to pickleball, doubles pickleball last year in my first year of sobriety. It was hard because I had a stranger relying on me as their partner. Among other just leaving the house was hard, but then going and doing that was hard. Yeah. So many things. So it's funny looking back. So yeah, therapy and coaching is so key and it's worth the money. I'll end with that thought. It's so funny how much money we will spend on our vices, but the amount of money we're willing to spend on self-improvement is nothing. It's crazy. And I was included. So so powerful. All right. Well, I'm going to put your Insta and website in there, but it's The Niche.
That's right.
Is it theniche.com? Yeah, theniche.com. And your Insta is what? Nisha Patel Coaching?
Nisha Patel Coaching.
Nailed it. All right. Great stuff, Niche.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And as I've said to every guest, and especially you, we're going to have to do a part 2 at some point.
Yes, absolutely. This has been so much fun, and I look forward to doing another one.
All right. Thank you. And
take care. Thank you for having me.
I'll remind the people, as always, please like, share, subscribe, or at least just submit a rating. Takes 2 seconds on Apple or Spotify. So easy. So thank you for listening and or watching.